Welcome back to STL Live. I'm Sarah Bernard. I'm here with Jennifer Hoffman of Voices for Children. We're going to be talking about this great organization right here in St. Louis. You help children from across the state of Missouri. Is that right?
Yes, mostly in the St. Louis metropolitan area. But
Okay.
yes, they can be, children can be placed in different parts of the state, and we continue to advocate for them as long as they're under the jurisdiction of our courts.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So we were talking in the last segment about these children who come to your organization, Voices for Children, because they've been taken out of their homes, because they've been abused, neglected, for whatever reason. And how old are these children that you are helping? What is the youngest?
Sure. So we advocate for children from birth to age 21. So if a child is born drug exposed, for example, their parent was using substances while they were pregnant, and they're born drug exposed, those children would come to us as well. So we receive, typically it's a couple days after birth, not the same day, but a couple days later, up until the age of 21, just depending on when they achieve permanency.
Mm-hmm. And you've been with the organization for about 10 years
Yes.
as an attorney.
Yes.
And have you seen children and benefit from some of the resources that you provided, and you've been with them for multiple years, I guess?
Yes, absolutely. I see on a daily basis the amazing impact that our CASA volunteers have on our kids. They develop a very close relationship. They become really a voice for that child, so that that child doesn't get lost within a system that's overburdened and underpaid workers and just high caseloads, not enough resources. So I see every day those CASA volunteers developing a real relationship with those kids and able to advocate and make sure that they get what they need.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen over the past decade or so the number of cases rising or declining, or is there kind of a consistency to the situation?
You know, that's a very interesting question. I think for if you were to look at a 10-year span, you would see that the numbers have actually been declining, which is a good reflection on the community resources that we have here in St. Louis. There are tons of them, and sort of a better management of, are those kids really at risk in the homes, and not removing kids unless we absolutely need to, because we do know, as you spoke of before, that is a very traumatic experience to be removed from a home, and if you can be safe there, then a child really should be with their family.
Is there an opportunity, do you ever work with children who actually stay in that home?
On occasion we will work with children who stay in the home, but the court has legally intervened just to provide some extra supports. Or we will work with families if a child is returned home to be reunified. There will be a trial period where we will work with the family, visit in that home to make sure the child's safe before the court completely removes themselves.
So let's talk a little bit about the CASA volunteers. This is a volunteer part of your organization who actually interface with these kids from the minute they become part of the program.
Yes.
So who volunteers, what kind of hours are involved, what kind of training? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So CASA volunteers are just community volunteers. They're people like you and me who have an interest in helping children and helping our families in our community. And so there's a whole process that you have to go through that is fairly simple. You submit an application and go through an interview process, and you then complete our training. Our training is 30 hours of training that involves a combination of online work and in-class work. And after that, you are sworn as an officer of the court and assigned to a case. On average, that time commitment is about 10 to 12 hours a month. So you know, a couple hours a week on average, just depending on the case that you have. There are some circumstances that it's a little more and some where it's a little less. But
so does a volunteer typically have one case at a time, or do some have more cases if they have more time for that? Typically,
volunteers have one case at a time. If a volunteer has been around for a long time and is very experienced and knowledgeable and has the time and ability to, we may assign an additional case, but that's pretty rare.
So with 850 kids in the system, you have a lot of volunteers, or a need for a lot of volunteers.
Absolutely. So we have more kids than we have volunteers, and we don't even represent all of the children that are in the system. So the 850 that we represent is a small portion of all of the children that are in the St. Louis area that are in foster care. So there are tons of kids just out there waiting for CASA volunteers to be assigned to their cases. We have seen, and evidence has proven, that having a CASA volunteer on a case results in positive outcomes for kids. They spend less time in foster care. They're less likely to re-enter foster care. They are more likely to be adopted. They're just as likely to be reunified with their families. So we see a lot of positive outcomes and believe that every child deserves that.
Very good. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing with us today. This sounds like a great organization to be a part of and also to volunteer for. To learn more about Voices for Children and how to be involved, visit them at voices-stl.org. There's more STL Live after this. Stay with us.